Thank you, Brianna. Well, good morning, everyone. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day to spend with us to look at apprenticeships as being a way to help you resolve your skills gap issue that you're having with your workforce. As Bree mentioned, please don't hesitate to type a question you have in a chat box, or you have the ability to unmute yourself and ask a question. Don't be afraid to do that either. I'm more than glad to help answer any questions or concerns that you may have. Since most of you are not familiar with who I am, just a little bit about myself is that my background is I have spent the last 25 years or so of my career working as an IT technical trainer and consultant. And I earned all of my IT engineering certifications through an apprenticeship model program. Basically, it was a learn and earn model where as I took certification exams and as I got more years of experience, I made more money. So it's the same philosophy as to what we're implementing today in manufacturing. I have been in the past program manager and in charge of L&D for companies that are to solve workforce solutions for local colleges. I've done it for private companies, and now I'm working in the nonprofit realm to help everyone help their workforce get the skills that they need. And for me, I even quoted myself, for me, it's all about developing people to their greatest potential. I thought, why not? Why not quote myself? I like this. Because that's what I've been doing my whole life, is helping people gain the skills that they need to do better in their job, and that turns into being better for their career. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to talk about a little bit about talent development, and then we'll talk about what an apprenticeship is and what the three core elements of an apprenticeship is. What are the benefits of implementing that into your current environment? What the value is with partnering with us, and then what your next steps would be to getting started for us to have a more in-depth conversation about apprenticeships, what occupations you would be interested in, and what will work best for your environment. Talent development must be integrated within your production and other strategies. I think that, to me, that is the number one thing that we're dealing with. You have all the customers, or maybe more customers than what you ever thought you would have. You have all the capital, you have all the equipment, you have your supply chain in place, but the last cog that we're missing to make everything grow is the skill set. And actually, most of us, one of the other short resources are people. We're all suffering from that short supply of human capital. And so we have to look at how do we deal with that, but also how do we deal with the human capital that we have internally and the talent that we have internally. How do we get their skills to the level that we need them to be so that everyone is productive and we continue our growth cycles? Talent development is probably one of the biggest concerns for Northeast Ohio. Magnet recently revealed their 2018 survey of Northeast Ohio companies, and when they talked about talent development, they found that of the companies that they surveyed, 79% are actively working to make their company culture more desirable. And in that, things that I hear as I'm out and about, things I hear companies doing is they are starting, if they don't already have, is to have an education plan. A lot of companies are starting to look at how do we improve the visible look and feel of where we work. In manufacturing, we have a little bit more difficult time because we have to make it sexy. And that's a little bit harder, but I've seen a lot of places that have done some fantastic work out on the shops of making it lighter and brighter and bringing in some of those lean concepts to make things more organized. Also, what I'm noticing too is that people are starting to look at in making their culture more desirable. They're looking at their pay scale. They're also looking at things like, what are some of the extracurricular things that people want to do? I know a lot of companies are putting a big emphasis on doing volunteer work and having a paid day to do that. And also looking at events that the company is sponsoring. Because people have realized there's a knowledge gap, what about roughly 59% of companies have started to actively work on doing knowledge transfers. This is where things from an HR standpoint get pretty difficult to do, because you have to spend a lot of time. If you want to do it well, you need to spend a lot of time with your more experienced workers of pulling out what are those essential skill sets and knowledge that needs to be transferred to that younger generation to help them out. And it's not necessarily always easy to do. Plus, with that knowledge transfer, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone who's working on the factory floor. You also have to consider those knowledge transfers for all the support staff, all the accountants, for the IT people, for managers, for vice presidents, all that. We're hitting that cycle where we're having a lot of people looking at retirement within the next 5 to 10 years, and we have to look at how do we get that valuable information and company knowledge out of them and get them into a teachable format. And also, to help address some of that, about 54%, 54.69% have started to initiate some sort of informal apprenticeship or on-the-job training, which too kind of flows into that knowledge transfer, but that even takes more effort and energy. And if you don't have an HR staff that's willing to do it, or you don't have supervisors and managers that are willing to take the extra time to do that, it's really hard to get up and running. And the other difficult part about that too is to making sure that you have the structure in place so that you can actually measure for your ROI, measure how the skills are increasing, and you can actually see that effect on production. The biggest question I get from everybody is, what is an apprenticeship? And everyone has their own impression of what an apprenticeship is. What we're working with is what's known as a learn and earn employer-sponsored career model. Apprenticeships differ from internships in the fact that many internships aren't paid. Many are, but a lot of times internships are a low pay or a no pay solution. When you are initiating an apprenticeship, someone becomes a full-time employee of your company, and from there, as their skill sets grow, they start to earn more, and they'll actually earn a progressive pay scale up to what a journey level would be or is at the time. There are 3 essential components of an apprenticeship. There is the mentor portion, which is probably in most cases the most valuable portion. We have on-the-job training, and then we also have classroom training, what's sometimes called RTI. And mentorship. Mr. Miyagi was probably the best example of a mentor. I think some of you may be in my age group that you have seen Karate Kid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 10, or however many there are. And it was through Mr. Miyagi's mentorship of teaching, of correcting, of showing, of encouraging, that the value of apprenticeships really come into play. I, throughout my career, have had informal mentors that, for me, have been absolutely invaluable. I had one mentor that was not only my manager, but he also became what we finally called Pops. And I got to know him not only as a manager and someone that had worked with businesses that had failed and that had done well and was willing to share his knowledge, but I also became a very personal friend. I got to know him as a person. And I think that had the best influence on me and on my career. What I'm seeing our companies, some of our member companies doing, is they are working with their more senior members, people who are getting ready to retire in the next 5 years, or as in one company, they have a gentleman who's 80. He's decided that he's going to cut back to 2 days a week. Cut back, mind you. He's been working full time up until now. And he's coming back 2 days a week to work with the apprentices to make sure that their skill set is right on track. What I'm seeing is that in a lot of companies, you don't just have one person that will act as a really good mentor. You may have 2 or 3, and that's okay. I have one in the CNC realm. I am learning that doing the lathe and doing the mill are 2 different skill sets. And so one of our members, we're working with targeting actually 2 mentors, one that's going to work with them when they hit with their lathe skills, and another who's going to work with them when they hit their milling skills. And in the end, what it's going to end up doing is producing a more well-rounded person. And it's actually starting to hit the culture where they're starting to do rotations for people. Even though your main skill set might be doing CNC mill, if we have more lathe work, we can shift people around. It might take you a little longer, but at least you know how the equipment works and you know what the quality people are looking for. Another solution, because people are such short supply resources, is that a lot of another consideration is look at your retiree pool. I'm going to make a gross generalization here, but I find that with the manufacturer I'm working with, most of their retiree pool is men. And from a wife's perspective, if my husband said, well, work wants to contract with me to come back in and be a mentor for a couple of days, is that okay? I'd be like, go. So I'm seeing companies starting to tap into that rich knowledge that their retirees have, who also have that desire to want to give back. The bonus of doing something like that is that of having these mentors is that, first of all, they know exactly how the company functions. We all know that with training classes, you're going to learn the basics of what a mill or a CNC mill or CNC lathe does, but there's no way in an educational setting, unless the company does all the training, that you can instill into people exactly how your company uses it and what the standards are and what the expectations are for the product that you're creating. It also allows for multi-general engagement, multi-generation. So now we have the older generation working with the younger generation and helping them develop the skill sets, sometimes those intangible skill sets, those soft skills of being on time, of how do you put your equipment away? How do you do a proper lockout, tag out? Correcting them so that they're doing it not the way they want to, but the way that you know is tried and true and works well. It can be more than one person, which in some ways might be good because then you can rotate people through in knowledge sets. The value that they really bring is brought in during those first 18 months. So that first year or so that someone is in an apprenticeship program, having that guidance of learning the basics and learning how to do those basics well is the value. I learned a long time ago from saying by Wynton Marsalis is that you got to learn the rules before you break them. And a lot of people want to break the rules before they learn them. And that creates all sorts of havoc. So to have someone there going, no, this is how you do it. No, this is how we do it. No, no, no. So that they build in those good habits is invaluable at this point. And also the value that the mentor brings to you is that the mentor is, we have actually a timesheet that people fill out of the skills that they're learning and how many hours each day they're spending on those specific skills. It is a job of the mentor to double check every month to make sure that all of that's recorded properly. And then I get a hold of those and I put them into the database to make sure that the apprentices are learning and are on track. On the job, so hand in hand with the mentor is the on-the-job training. This is, I think, for all of us, we've all had on-the-job training, whether we've wanted to or not. Some of us have 4-year degrees, some of us don't, but I know that with my 4-year degree in education, that I still, even though I student taught, I still had a lot to learn, and you don't learn it until it's birth by fire, where you're standing in front of a classroom of people and you're going, oh my God, it's for real. And now I'm having issues with this, I'm having issues with this. How do I deal with that? And that's where that mentor came in to help create greater value to the job that I was doing. And I've learned throughout my many years of training that nothing is right the first time, and sometimes it takes 2, 3, or 4 times until you're finally comfortable with the process. and how it should be and what the results need to be. And then I can go in and start to look at how do I improve it. 90% of all of the learning that the apprentice is going to do is going to be on the job. This is their paid portion. This is their everyday job that they're coming in and doing, whether it's 40 hours a week or 50 or 60 or whatever hours you're running. They're always, every day, learning some new feature or aspect or skill of their job. For apprenticeships, we count a year as being roughly 2,000 hours. I know HR people, that's not true. I know it's more than that, but that's what our base is set at, is someone has to work at least 2,000 hours per year. Apprenticeships based upon occupation, and occupation's not job title. Occupation is Department of Labor sets occupations, like we have welder, we have tool and die maker, we have CNC programmer operator. Based upon the standards that are set, most apprenticeships will last anywhere from 2 to 4 years. Which I think for a lot, 4 years is a great time for someone to actually begin to become a craftsman. And they still have more years to go to be a full craftsman, but at least they're getting that experience. Every year that they go through, as their skills are increasing and their experience is increasing, their wage is also increasing. So when you are looking at this from your salary planning aspect, you need to be aware that they're going to start at a lower rate, but the expectation is each year they're going to see, those apprentices are going to see a wage increase that's going to eventually get them up to what the average journeyman wage is. And that is a discussion that we will have one-on-one based upon the occupations that you choose. But the basic formula that we use is we set what we see as the average journeyman rate. And for the first year, all of our apprentices make 60% of that journeyman's rate, and then they slowly work up 10% each year. The other joy of doing a registered apprenticeship is that we can give life credits. And I know when I was at one point looking at going back to college, one thing that I was getting angry about was that there were very few master's programs at the time that were actually taking in account for all of my prior work experience and giving me credit for that. That has completely changed over the past 10 years. So the apprenticeship model also does that. I have one apprentice that worked at another company, and they gave him a certified letter of the hours that he worked, so that he's getting some prior life credits. A lot of our apprentices are coming from internal candidates that everyone is seeing is a good learner, has good dedication, has the ability and the willingness to learn. And they've probably worked for them for at least 6 months to a year. So I sit down with the mentors and we look at all the basic skills and we assign them what they think number of hours they've spent on each of those skills, so that they've actually come out with, a lot of them come out with at least 500 hours of work time that they are getting pre-credit for. That does not mean that if someone's in a 4-year apprenticeship, that even though they have prior life work experience, that they're going to be done earlier, because one of the bigger holdups for most people is the training piece. The training piece is 10%. It's classroom learning for most. Most of our apprentices now are going to Tri-C, and they're going in the evening, or they're taking online courses. And it is a portion that's giving them that basic knowledge so that they can then come back into work and then build those skills upon that. Most of the people that we're looking at putting into apprenticeships, or they're even considered, are people who are fantastic working with their hands. And so they do struggle a little bit with the college. I have quite a few that went to college, went to a four-year institution, or started at Tri-C. Life got in the way, or they found out that it was just not really what they wanted to do. And so now so they never finished. And so now putting that technical training in with the apprenticeship, and maybe only taking one class a semester, is working out great for them. Based upon what an apprenticeship requires, not only does it require 2,000 hours of hands-on work every year, it also requires 144 contact hours for technical training. Contact hours is different than credit hours. Contact hours is actually how much time are you actually spending in lecture and are you spending in lab. So what I have found is that 144 contact hours a year works out to about 3 or 4 classes, which I think for most people, balancing work, family, fun, and education, 1 class a semester or maybe 2, most people have no problem with being able to create a balance for that. Plus, first semester is a little hard getting in the groove, but once they've gotten in the groove, they get used to going to class, they get used to doing the homework. I have not seen anyone have difficulties with it. Probably the biggest part is that the apprentices have had to go back to their families and talk about, this is going to be a little bit of a pain on all of us because I'm not going to be here as much as I want to, but this is going to, in the end, be a great payoff for the company, for myself, and for my family. Also with this, the employer pays for the tuition and for the fees. Also, what I see all of our employers doing is not only are they paying for tuition and fees, but they're also paying for the books. Besides tuition, the books are the next biggest cost that have to do with this. All of our employers so far all have funds set up, all have learning rules or learning education, what do you want to call it? Education guides or education guidelines in their handbooks. What I find is that not only are there employers that will pay for everything, but there are some employers that will pay by what grade you get. That is a decision that you as the company need to make. We don't involve ourselves in that situation whatsoever, but I'm seeing that the vast majority of employers do have funds set aside and they're paying for the tuition, for the institutional fees, and they're also paying for the books. There are training options. We have a partnership with Tri-C. We have a relationship with Lakeland and also with Lorain County Community College. And we also have a relationship with Tooling U. So you've got 4 options for how you want your apprentices to be trained to get those good basic skills. By the way, they do not necessarily have to get an associate's degree. So that means that they can go in and get what are known as certificates for maintenance mechanic, for machinist, for tool and die maker. And that if they want to go get their associates, you can decide if that's something you as a company want to support, or the students could complete that themselves. And it's roughly about 4 more classes for the students to go out and get their associate's degree. So something to think about as adding value for their learning. Also, life credits are given for prior education. I have a couple apprentices who went to Kent, were going to be engineers. They're all gung-ho, made it through the first semester barely and decided that wasn't what they wanted to do. The 4-year degree wasn't in the picture for them at this time. So what we were able to do and what Tri-C is able to do is to take those credits and transfer, and it knocks off a few classes and it allows them to continue with their education. Any questions so far?
There aren't any in the chat box at this point.
Okay, awesome. So why do you want to do this? Well, because there aren't very many good choices. We have too many jobs, not enough people, or we have people, but they don't have the right skills. And so if you want your company to grow and you want to be able to keep producing at the high level that you are, you have to make choices as to how you're going to address this skills gap. By 2020, which is, as I realized when I wrote this, is next year, we are going to have a shortage of 5 million workers with all the right technical certificates, credentials, and credentials that are needed to succeed in high growth, high demand industries. I could not fathom 5 million people anywhere. So since it is baseball season, go Tribe, I figured out that 5 million people would sell out Progressive Field for 143 games. Ann and I were discussing this, and it's not going to beat the record for the most sold out games, but it's at least going to get us through 2 years. So 2 years of filling Progressive Field. I can't change to meet the shortage that we have. And so what are the benefits that an apprenticeship is going to give you? First of all, we are finding that overall, that 91% on average of the apprentices that complete the program stay with the company that sponsored them. So I know we all have fears that employees are going to leave. Sometimes it happens. We have had members have that happen. It happens. We can't control all of that. But those that stay and those that go through are going to be there. After the first year, remember we said the mentor was the important portion for the first 18 months. After that first year, under great guidance and education, most apprentices are performing at or above what most of your senior employees are. So they're way ahead because they've had that intensive one-on-one that has helped them improve their skills more quickly. It also helps you proactively address the retirement of your highly skilled workforce. What we're hearing called as the silver tsunami that's hitting greatly as we're seeing all the baby boomers, all that knowledge starting to leave. And I'm sure all of you have sat back and done calculations within the past 2 years of looking at, here's how many people we know are going to be retiring. How are we ever going to fill those slots? Now I can start to think about how I can start to build my internal pipeline to help address that. It's also going to be a way of changing your culture and attracting a whole new workforce. And unemployment is incredibly low. And right now, the pool of unemployed people that we have are facing some barriers. However, those barriers are not insurmountable. There's a lot of support out there. There's a lot of organizations that can help people overcome those barriers, and it gives you a chance to help with that. I'm starting to see that we're seeing a whole new focus on our workforce of looking at the population of ex-offenders who are coming out, who are dying to have great skills to be able to provide for their family. We're also seeing a greater push put in those that have special needs and apprenticeships for them because they have skills and abilities that allow you to tap into their skill set. We're also seeing here that we are putting greater emphasis on helping youth look at manufacturing as a great option for them to go into. So we are helping with building pipelines of high school students through job shadows, through plant tours, through pre-apprenticeship programs to help build that access to that younger group and have them understand the value of manufacturing and what a good environment it is, and to have them usher right straight out of high school and into that apprenticeship environment that they're looking for. I've spent quite a few years working on the HR side of talent development and workforce development, and what I like about doing an apprenticeship is that it's a repeatable and customized framework. It has a solid set of skills and fundamentals that are built in that if I start to implement a apprenticeship about machinists, I know that if I run people through every 6 months, I stagger my start, that I'm going to come out with people that all have awesome, solid skill sets in machining. So that when I need to promote or move people around, I know exactly what the skill sets my workforce has. And part of that is there is a timesheet that lists all the skills that as HR you can put as part of their personnel folder, and you can start tracking how long it's taking them to get those hours in shop safety or in lockout, tagout, or in milling or in drilling. And you will have a more solid, numerically based concept of where all of your apprentices are and where your skill set is and where you need to grow it and where you need to kind of adjust it. As part of this, because we know that a lot of people, this is very overwhelming. I actually talked to somebody that their HR department put in an apprenticeship. They did it all from scratch. And the person that did it I was talking to them and they told their manager, don't you ever do that to me again. Because, and I started a project at my last workplace to do this. It took at least a year of meetings with various managers and supervisors to be able to figure out just what the top 10 basic skill sets are. And we had not even started to dig into what were all the lower level ones. So for example, like if I need to know machining basics, that means I need to know how to use a screwdriver, a caliper. They're even more specific than that of things that I don't know what they are, but I have for one occupation, I have 1.5 pages of individual skill sets. That can take forever, let alone to be able to then tie it into, if you want to register it and have a registered apprenticeship, let alone tie it into the education that's going to teach those fundamentals. So what we've done as part of Manufacturing Works is we've joined the Ohio State Apprenticeship Council. And with that ties us into the Department of Labor so that I can go in, register an apprentice, and when they are all done with the program, and they're done with their 8,000 hours worth of on the job, and they're done with their 425 hours of classroom learning, they will end up earning their journey certificate. We have the ability with a relationship with Robert Byrd Institute to be able to have the standards for over 20 occupations. One thing I really wanted to put on here, because I'm tired of Ohio being the last on everybody's list for everything, is that when looking at the data from the Department of Labor, Ohio was actually in the top 10 states with the most apprenticeships. That, yeah, made me feel good. I noticed when I looked at this, it's mostly the Great Lakes. We're a high manufacturing environment, and these states are running into the exact same issue of not having the skills that we need to run our company. And so we've all looked at having apprenticeships and having apprentices as being one of our key ways of changing that situation. So if you partner with us, what are we bringing you and how are we helping you do this? Well, first of all, we have an Apprenticeship Consortium. And with that Apprenticeship Consortium, what we do is we onboard you as the employer, we onboard every apprentice, we help you look at the occupations, decide which occupations best fit your need, and then if you need to, we can help you massage those occupations to add in maybe skill sets that you don't see on there that are needed, or skill sets that maybe you don't use. So we've got some space in there. I have one tool and die guy that does a lot of welding. So we're just adding that in as an additional for him, that not every tool and die maker is going to do welding. We do all the administration. So there's a lot of back-end administration with registering apprenticeships, with getting apprentices into the Department of Labor database, of managing and maintaining all of their records to make sure that they're accurate. That double check and the heavy lifting with getting registered for classes is something that we help broker on your behalf. Currently, where we stand, this program's been has been around for roughly 2 years. We have 11 member companies into our consortium. They're ranging from all different sizes. We have from very small to medium size. Currently, we are supporting 5 apprenticeship occupations, and those occupations are maintenance mechanic, machinist, tool and die maker, CNC programmer, operator, and welder. We currently have 8 apprentices. The vast majority of them are in maintenance mechanic because that's another hot area that we're having a hard time finding people who like to repair stuff. And currently we have 7 apprentices that are scheduled for starting classes in the fall. And we look to only every month. This keeps growing and growing, and I always look forward to every month going, ooh, I added one more, yay! We got one more person that wants our help at getting those skill sets in their system. So what can we do as part of this consortium? Besides helping you with setting up an apprenticeship, we at Manufacturing Works in the Workforce Division can also help you with developing your talent pipeline. We have a program called WorkSource that TJ works with helping you with recruiting individuals to fit those needs, and also helping, if you want us to help you build your apprenticeship pipeline, we can help find individuals for that. We also have youth career programs, so that if apprenticeships, you still need time to think about it, but you want to start that marketing and exposing youth to your company and all the great things that you do and the great environment, we can help you with setting up job shadows, which only lasts a couple of hours. Maybe do a plant tour so the youth can see what you make and how you make it. We can help with summer internships. And we also have the ability to do pre-apprenticeships. So you could have a young person working at your place 2 or 3 times a week and help them gain a valuable experience, and all that experience would roll right into their apprenticeship. We too have partners because we can't do it alone. I feel like a PBS. I just like WVIZ. I just said we have to have partnerships too. The program's been generously funded by the Cleveland Foundation, who also saw that we needed to have a sector partnership to help grow our manufacturing sector and to help support them and help them address that skills gap that they're experiencing. We work in conjunction also with Tri-C, who delivers most of our classes. We also have a relationship with Robert C. Byrd Institute out of West Virginia, and through them, they have graciously shared with us through a grant that they've done all of their job skill sets, all of the occupations and all of the on-the-job and training. And then we also work in conjunction with Tooling U to deliver online content. So now, do you have any questions? Oh, I see. Is there any age limit for an apprentice? Yeah, that is an awesome question. It is set at 17. 17 years old to whatever. So as long as they as long as they are at 17, they can join an apprentice program. Otherwise, they would fall into our pre-apprentice program. Anyone else? Yes. Oh, another great question. Can the class be conducted at a school of apprentice's choice? Yes. The only thing we'd have to do is, and it has to be a for credit course. So if someone lives closer, let's say, for example, to Stark State, I would need to reach out to Stark State, make sure we get their education plan and we get them listed as an education training partner. But yes, we can do that. Or if it's Akron, or if it's Kent, or if it's wherever, yes. We we need a window of time to work with the education provider to make sure that we're all ready to go. Oh, cost of the services. There is a one-time consortium setup fee that's $2,000. Then there is a quarterly administration fee for all of the back-end work that I do. And that quarterly fee is based upon the wage scale that we've established. So when we talk further, I can give you a detailed fee schedule so that you know exactly what it's going to cost over that, what the administrative fees are going to cost over the 4 years. Does that answer what you were looking for? And if you want to turn your mic on, you can too. That's fine. Everyone's scared. No, $2K per company. So it's $2,000 for as you do normal setup, for us to do a general setup, and then there is administrative fees per apprentice. Yes, awesome clarification. All right. So our next steps is, and I know everybody loves my last name, is if you want to talk more about this, or you would like to talk with one of our consortium members, please either give me a call at 216-920-1963, or you can email me, which I know everyone's going to frantically write down Ditchkevich, because we all love that. It's lditchkevich at manufacturingworkscle.org. What I will do is I will send you out a thank you so that you do not have to type in my email address. I find that that's a little bit better customer service. And, and I look forward to speaking with anyone, all of you, or any one of you who are interested in starting down that path of implementing apprenticeships into your environment. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest, and have a wonderful rest of your day.